so much. It's a pleasure to see everyone today. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Federica, for inviting Jody and I. We're excited to tell you a little bit about Paul Smith College, about what we do here, and about what makes our programs unique. So I'm going to share my screen with you. It looks like my sharing's disabled, so if somebody can enable that, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Yours.
All right, thank you so much. So as I said, I'm excited to share with you today. I'm just going to be with you for briefly this morning, but I'm going to share with you a really innovative project that we've been running here at Paul Smith College for, it's going into our 8th year. So it's our unique study abroad experience. We offer it in Italy, and most recently, actually, we introduced the program in South Africa. So the program, it's called Protected Landscapes and Community Sustainability. So I'm going to share the program with you in 5 distinct sections. I'm going to start with kind of an overview of the mission of the program, tell you a little bit about the concept that we designed based on our mission, the project itself, so what it looks like when the students are actually on the ground in the countries, the key players that have taken the responsibility to help design and actually get this program off the ground, and then the really cool outcomes that we have from it. So first and foremost, we designed this program, this unique study abroad program, with a very clear mission in mind. The mission was focused on what we call the 3 I's. It was to create immersive, innovative, and interdisciplinary service learning opportunities where students can gain real-world experience and give back to the local community. So our goal was not to just take students abroad in a bus trip and have them look and kind of wave to the locals, but more importantly, have them interact with locals and then try to give back in some way. So all of the deliverables and all of the projects that we design, we leave the local community with something that they can hopefully implement. And all the projects focus on sustainable development. So the concept was built out of that mission. So we had the mission first and we figured out, okay, how do we actually make a program from this? So one thing to note that this is not your average study abroad experience. We always tell the students in the beginning as they're prepping for this, if you're thinking about you're going on a vacation, this is not a vacation, it's hard work. But this picture is actually, we take students to the Dolomites region. We don't take them base jumping like they do in this picture, but we do really innovative and fun experiences that they get out of the traditional, tour van and into the communities to meet the real people that are behind these projects. So the concept starts with, we focus all of our projects around the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So each semester when we're designing the program, we work with the local community to identify their needs. So for instance, if they're having issues addressing things related to climate change, we'll do a project and create our project around climate change. So the nature of the project changes each semester, but the core is focused on the UN's SDGs. We work with directors, so not just local community members, but we work with directors from UNESCO's Biosphere Reserve program. For an undergraduate student body, that's a really unique experience to have on their CV and their resume, to be able to say that they're working directly with UNESCO Biosphere Reserves and administrators from those Biosphere Reserves. So, and as I mentioned before, the great thing about this program is that the students are dealing with real world issues and real world projects. And in the next slide, I'm going to show you what that actually looks like when they're there and how they actually help the community implement these projects. So the other 2 things that are unique about this is that we've been doing this project for 8 years. So we have really strong relationships. And from my research and from my experience, the most influential and innovative study abroads are based on long-term relationships, not just taking students there for, a week, just once and never going back, but cultivating these relationships so they're meaningful and helpful to the local community. The last thing I think that separates our study abroad is that we try to make it affordable. Accessibility is a huge boundary for students who are trying to experience different cultures and to try to, travel outside of their areas. So a lot of our students are 1st-generation college students. So we try to make the trip affordable so they can experience it, even if, traditionally they wouldn't be able to afford it. So we work with the people that we have the relationship with in Italy and South Africa to make it affordable for a wide group of students. So this is an example of what the project looks like on the ground. I'm going to talk shortly about the Wild Center's Youth Climate Summit program, but I'll show you just kind of step by step of what this looks like. So we work with the students for 1 semester on the ground in Paul Smith's to prep them, to get them ready for the trip. So it's usually about 3.5 to 4 months of work, doing background research about sustainable development, about the area that they're going to be traveling to, and more importantly, how they can help that area. After they do the semester of research, they spend usually about 2 weeks in countries. So in our case, it could be Italy or in South Africa. And typically we work with 3 UNESCO Biosphere reserves. So we work with the one in our local community in New York and Vermont, the Champlain Adirondack. And then we also work with ones in Italy or South Africa. Most recently, we're working with 2 in Italy, the Tuscan-Emilian Apennine Biosphere Reserve, and then also the Ledro Alps and Giudicaria Biosphere Reserve. And at the end of it, the students earn 4 credits for it, but they have a life-changing experience to show from it. So one project, I'm keeping an eye on time, so I know I have just a little bit of time for this, but one project the students are working on right now is they're developing a model with an organization that's based here in the Adirondacks called the Youth Climate Summit. The goal of this program is to help community members to work with youth to design their own youth climate program. So our students from New York are bringing this idea to Italy to do 2 biospheres to show them how to create and implement their own youth climate programs. So in terms of sustainable development, it's really great to kind of mobilize youth and empower them in a way about climate action to make changes for their local community. So these are some of the key players that it takes to run our program. What I realized from doing this for 8 years is that it takes a village to design a really good, innovative study abroad program. So these are some of the key players that have helped us get this program off the ground and running smoothly. So we work closely with UNESCO. They've been incredible partners for us. Those are the 3 biosphere reserves that I mentioned. And then we have 2 tour operators, Dolomiti Learning, that are based out of the Dolomites, and the Marco Polo tours that work in the Tuscan-Emilian Apennine area. So they've been critical and key partners in our success. So here are some of the outcomes from our study abroad project. So we recently were asked by UNESCO to create a joint declaration between our biospheres that are working on the study abroad program. So we created a joint declaration on environmental ethics for mountain sustainability. What's really cool is that the students are at the center of this. They're the reason this joint declaration could actually happen. So as an undergraduate student, having the ability to say that they helped create this idea for this joint declaration is pretty incredible. So another outcome is that as I mentioned, as related to the youth climate program, the students help design and climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies to share with international communities. So oftentimes students, are learning about climate change out of a textbook, but this is not only expanding their knowledge about climate change, but also helping them share these ideas internationally. So again, a pretty unique thing. We've been invited because of our work with the students internationally and UNESCO, we've been invited to present our model of our study abroad program with the International Leadership Association at conferences in Belgium and South Africa. So it's been cool to hear others' feedback and other interest in our program. We have fun doing it, but it's great to get feedback and to know that others want to mimic what we're doing. So we also recently were invited to share this idea on a podcast, the Leadership Educator podcast. And then lastly, we're working on a publication about it. It's called New Directions for Student Leadership. It's a journal publication, but just about this model of getting students to work on sustainable development projects internationally from a service learning perspective. So they're learning in the process, but at the same time giving back to the local community. So that's what I have for you today. I am happy to answer any questions. If there's any students that are interested in participating in any of this, I would be happy to talk to the students directly. But that wraps up my portion of the presentation, and thank you again for having us today.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So actually, I just have a question for you, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Because in one slide, okay, so the students will spend some time and will travel to the other biosphere reserves, which means that Italian students will also study in Italian, right? And how long will they stay in Italy?
Yes. So if an Italian student was, are you saying if an Italian student came to Paul Smith and they had the chance to do this program, how would it look for them?
I don't know. They might be interested because it's a way to learn something different about your own country. But probably they would also be interested in going somewhere else to learn something that they are studying, but like with a different perspective.
So if I understand the question correctly, so if Italian students were interested in participating in this, if they were attending Paul Smith, they would have the opportunity. They can do it in Italy. We also do this in South Africa as well. So we work with Biosphere reserves, 3 Biosphere reserves in South Africa. So the Cape West Coast Biosphere Reserve, the Hurwitz Cluster Biosphere, and then the Cape Wineland. So they have a chance to explore outside the area. And what's interesting is they have a completely different socioeconomic context that the students can learn in. So in terms of getting out of your comfort zone, I'd say that's probably the furthest we can push them out of their comfort zone, but the results from that have been incredible. So yes, they absolutely have the opportunity to do that.
And if I may ask you one thing, when you said that it's an affordable program, can you give me a more specific idea of the cost?
Sure.
So is it part of the tuition, or is it a different budget that students have to be able to participate in this? Incredible, because I would love to do it.
You're invited on the trip. You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. So the way it works is the course fees, meaning the credits, the 4 credits, are integrated into their tuition for the semester. So the only thing they're responsible for paying for is the trip itself. So that's what's unique about it. So that's how we keep costs down. Normally, when you pay for a study abroad, you have to pay per credit, so for per credit hour. But we've worked it out, and that's why they're doing the research beforehand. So the credits are paid in the semester before. And so in terms of the cost, it really depends on the duration of the stay. So we've had it sometimes, we can bring the cost down to anywhere from $2,500, and that includes all transportation, all food, so 3 meals, and that's the flight to and from Italy or South Africa, and all lodging, so all inclusive. On the upwards end, if we stay a little bit longer and we go to we stay at a little bit higher up of a accommodation. It could be about $3,500 US dollars. So it really depends on the duration of the stay, the location that we're going to, and the nature of the research we're doing. So, but yeah.
Thank you very much. And then I would love it if at the end of the webinar or tomorrow you could send us the podcast, a link to the podcast, that it's another way to help our students know more about this project. But thank you very much for your presentation. It was great.
Thank you for the invitation. Absolutely. And I will absolutely send you the podcast link.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Then we'll give the floor to Jody for a more detailed presentation about the college itself.
Right.
Paul
Hi,
Smith
everyone.
College.
Kelly, feel free to pop off if you need to. You're absolutely welcome to. I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you. Laura, okay, the screen, okay, okay.
Here we go.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I can see the screen.
Okay, are you seeing the presenter mode?
Yes.
Are you
Yeah, sure, we see it.
Okay.
But
so,
yeah, we're the presenter's mode though, with the notes.
The presenter mode. Yeah, see, it should be the other one. Oh, let me try this. 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, are you seeing the full screen yet?
Yeah, we see, okay.
Yeah,
actually, we were still seeing the presenter's mode. I don't know why. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
You think after a couple of years of doing this, everyone, we'd be better at it, but these things happen. So
yeah, it's okay.
Thank you, everyone, Laura and Federica, for having Paul Smiths here. My name is Jody Rossi, and I work on international admissions. So I'm going to give a more broad overview of the college. of our environmental programs, I really wanted you to meet Kelly and see just what one of our professors are doing. So she's an example of what one professor is accomplishing in the environmental spectrum at our school. Now multiply that plus our 90 plus faculty members, and you can just see that there's a lot of opportunity available in this field of study for students who are really interested into it. And so I want to go over a little bit about what we'll chat about today. Kelly went first about our sustainability initiatives. I am going to spend 2 slides on choosing a college because I think it is really important to help you narrow down and to learn about specialty schools like Paul Smith's, where we're not a general school that offers 200 majors, but you know, there are actually specialty schools that specialize. And hopefully that will be a good takeaway for you. I'll introduce you to environmental programs of study because it's nuanced and it's broad and there's so many choices. We'll look at environmental careers, the future of the field, and then if there's any questions at the end, you know, I'll do a brief overview about Paul Smith's a little bit and then can take any questions. And so if you're considering studying in the US, you have at least 5,000 choices. Literally 5,000 colleges and universities in the United States. How do you even begin to choose? So first, I think it's really important that to know that there is a way to narrow down. So there's kind of like a few tips that I give students when I'm advising them, which is going to be like 5 main starters for you. So first, you want to look for colleges that offer your program of study. So that's going to be the first thing. And then you want to make sure that you can afford it. So there's going to be a huge difference in the US on private schools, public schools, community colleges. So you have a lot of choices and there's a lot of price variances. And there really should be something for almost everyone. And then another really important factor is the size of the school. And this really, I think, plays a bigger part than a lot of people assume it will in the beginning when they're searching. Because there's a huge difference between a studio and a lecture style hall, like you see on the top left there, and in the bottom right, where you see a class that's interacting together. Everyone learns differently, and some people are very lecture research focused, and a lecture hall might be the best way for you. And then some people need more interaction with their faculty and with their classmates. And so a smaller school where you're in very small classes and it's very hands-on might be better learning for you. So you really have to think about what community you see yourself living in for 4 years and what type of place you typically are successful in. And if it is large lecture style and it is going to be a large college that offers a lot of majors, that might be a great option. Or then there's specialty schools like me and like Paul Smith's. And then there's a whole bunch in between that are kind of middle of the road in size. So you might have some larger classes, but then you might have a class with 10 or 15 people in it. It's important to think about the location. If you're looking in the United States, we're a huge country. And so if you want to study marine biology, you might want to be on a coast as opposed to in the middle of the country. If you're studying, you know, environmental studies or wilderness and wildlife studies, well then a college like Paul Smith's located in a state park might be a better fit compared to a large city or urban campus. But if you're doing urban planning, maybe you want to be at a city campus. And so location can play a big part in what sort of opportunities you have for internships and for just different experiences the college might arrange for you. And then it is really important to think about the extracurriculars. So does the school have the things you enjoy doing? You're going to live here for 4 years. Most people meet their spouses and the friends they have for a lifetime, and they develop their habits that they have into adulthood during these 4 years. And so making sure that outside of class, the college is going to have what you're looking for with sports and clubs and activities. Again, the location can depend on that. If the location offers things that you want to explore and you know you want to do. So that's kind of how you'll start to narrow down your search. Once you have it narrowed down to a little bit of a shorter list, you can really start considering culture, the culture of the school, and then there's a lot of traditional structures and non-traditional structures. We use the term fit quite often, and fit is when you feel a connection with the culture of the school on a deeper level, such as demographic groups you want to be affiliated with, large and small projects that students and faculty are involved in, similar to what Kelly just described. Clubs, athletics, professional affiliations. Like for instance, we have forestry affiliations with professional organizations that most colleges don't have, that we've built over a lot of years through collaboration. And so those types of affiliations and opportunities outside of the class, the type of students that are attracted to the school, Paul Smith's being environmentally focused, that students, even if they're a business student or a psychology student or a baking and pastry arts, and they're not in the environmental field, there's still a lot of elements of environmentalism in their programs, as well as because of our location. So a lot of students come to us for those programs just because they like our area and they like our culture. So you can find schools that are all male, all female. They can have religious affiliations. You want to make sure they have majors and minors that you might want to flip around and experiment with. You might look at narrative evaluations instead of grades. I attended a college in the US where we didn't have grades. We had a written narrative evaluation from our professors each semester. So there's a lot of variety once you kind of narrow down the 5 main points to help you find your fit. So I hope that this helps a little bit as you start your college search and journey. But let's talk about Paul Smith's and kind of the very cool environmental science projects that we have and programs that we offer. And so the photos you see here, these are all classes from last semester. So these are students in class. I want you to note all the different majors that you do see over on the right side of the screen. And so some of these might be really familiar, like biology and environmental science, but most of them might look totally new for you. And this really shows the breadth of study available and how nuanced this field can be. So I'm going to take 2 of them and kind of give you a description of what those courses entail so you can sort of see that nuance. So let's look at forestry, for example. So we have forestry as a degree, but we actually have 3 degrees in forestry that you'll have to choose between. Ecological forest management. And so that's going to prepare students for positions with government forestry agencies and consulting firms. It's management level, it's project management, policy, compliance, kind of big picture forestry. Then there's forest operations, and that's a really good fit for students who want to be involved in forest products or running their own forest product companies. So our graduates go on to start paper companies, logging companies, woodworking companies. And so that's a little more hands-on, working with the forest at that level. And then there's forest biology, which is more of the science research. That's great if you plan to go to graduate school, specialize in forest ecology or entomology, and you want more of a research focus. Another major I want to discuss is environmental studies. And I want to make a clear distinction that if you love the environment, don't feel pigeonholed into thinking it's all environmental science. And you might think, okay, I'm not great at science or not strong in science, so maybe this field isn't for me. There's actually a lot of jobs and a lot of majors within environmentalism that are not science focused. And environmental studies is a really great example of this because it focuses on political science, economics, art, literature, philosophy, ethics, and sociology. So for example, part of the courses, they want to help you figure out what does it mean to possess a personal sense of space? How do you respond effectively to environmental problems? And how do you then inspire and encourage effective responses from others? Our highly experiential coursework focuses on understanding and addressing complex environmental problems faced by society, such as climate change, globalization, invasive species, loss of biodiversity, energy, pollution, and population pressures. Graduates are well prepared for careers in environmental advocacy and education, writing and social justice, political relations, environmental journalism, policy, law, teaching. And so these don't have to be science-based. So I hope to some degree that gives you an idea that there's a lot of choices out there. If you look over these majors, from human health and the environment, looking how the environment impacts human health and how humans are impacting the environment, which then cause widespread disease like we've seen over the last 2 years. Disaster management in response is really important as more man-made and natural disasters develop, having ways to respond to them, mitigate them, organize around them. So there's a lot available for you if you're interested in this field that kind of touch on all different points. And so why does it all matter? Why should you consider this field in general? And I think this is important. And again, these are students in class at Paul Smith's. I think it's important to remember that there are 5 things that connect all of us. 5 things that don't relate to borders, to countries, to languages, or divide us. And that is our air quality, water quality, public health, food systems, and the animals we share our planet with. And so when we talk about campus culture and campus fit, our students want to be part of a greater good. They're driven by that. They strive to work on all of these areas for all of us, and in return to build a solid career for themselves, but also for it to be more than just a job. And I think that's important to consider when you're looking at college. Sometimes it's always career focused, and it's important to know, how is it going to make you feel about the life that you live? And that's an important component to our education process at Paul Smith's, is making sure you have a very holistic experience and you develop as a human being, not just learn a certain set of academics for a career. And so let's look a little bit at what are the most common environmental careers out there right now. Now, on the left are the most in-demand jobs currently for 2022. When I was researching for this presentation and I was looking at environmental jobs, I stopped counting at 125. And so you see, and I think this gives a great example that there is a lot of work to be done in this area. We're going to look at some statistics in a minute that really show the job growth. This is a huge, big topic. There isn't a single business, major business in the world today that does not have sustainability plans, environmental impact statements, looking to operate more sustainably. And so whether you go into business or environmental, or you go into tourism or hospitality, there is always going to be an environmental aspect. One of the jobs I didn't put up here, but I actually saw a lot of, was social media. So social media, that would be that environmental studies degree, learning how to communicate about what's happening environmentally to a broader audience and kind of meeting people where they are. So a lot of social media coordinators on there if you're interested in digital technology and the environment. So this gives just a very small sampling. And we absolutely know that this is a field that's growing faster than average than all other occupations. And so 11% growth in 10 years is really significant. We don't see that that's going to slow down. And in fact, we've seen, probably a lot of these statistics will start to uptick after we get out of COVID, because a lot of this has been seen, especially the human health and the environment connection. We're kind of seeing the bigger picture and how our world has to operate together and not as individually as countries. And so I think we're going to see these numbers probably even go up a little bit in the next year or two. In the US right now, if you graduate with a degree in environmental science and go into one of the careers I listed, you start at a pretty high wage. These are starting salaries. And so really, as the slide says, as the world population swells and climate change puts increasing pressure on the environment, the need for knowledgeable professionals to mitigate the damage to the air, land, and sea increases as well. So our use has not been changing fast enough to outpace the damage that we've done. So there's a lot of years ahead of us that are going to require knowledgeable folks making good decisions. And also it's a lot of fun, right? I mean, this is a degree where you are out there and you're experiencing the world. Again, this is class at Paul Smith's College. This is what it looks like. We are known as an experiential hands-on college. That means we spend about 50% of our time outside of the classroom so that you graduate resume ready. That's hugely important. Kelly mentioned it in her presentation, that our students leave with robust CVs and resumes and experiences that already are making an impact in the environmental and climate change world. So a little bit about Paul Smiths. We have been broadly recognized for outstanding experiential education and environmental education for 75 years. We are located in a state park, the Adirondack State Park. So you actually live and learn in an ecological, pristine system and forest system. We're right here on the lake. That's the student center you see on the lake there. That's where the cafeteria is. There's dorms hidden in all of those trees, as well as classrooms. And so it's really about hands-on education. And our students are responsible for maintaining our 14,000 acres of forestry, wildlife, rivers, lakes, and everything that goes along with keeping this a pristine ecosystem. We're less than 1,000 students, so very small classes. You may have a class with 8 to 10 students in that. You are definitely going to interact with faculty frequently. They know you by your first name. Our students often do research with faculty. They present with them. They co-author papers, all at the undergraduate level, which is really, really significant, especially if you do have intentions of going on to graduate school. And so we are entirely residential. All of our students live on campus, and we have lots of internships and career planning. I think most important, you can see that 96% of our graduates will have a job in their field of study, which is significant, or be in grad school within 6 months. We offer generous international scholarships, so don't let our price tag scare you away. We're happy to work with you to make that possible. Here's my contact information. Check out our website, check out our social media. If you have questions for Kelly or I, please reach out. We're happy to discuss further. And I look forward to talking to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jody. And thank you so much. Your presentation was very interesting. And actually, I have a couple of questions. Mm-hmm. The first question is about the applicants, so the students who are applying and then the students who get accepted at Paul Smiths. So which are the main characteristics of the students? So just to give some hints to our advisees.
Yeah, are you looking, do you mean like the grades that we're looking for?
Like in general, because next question would be, what kind of international students is Paul Smiths College looking for?
Yeah, I think, we really do look for entrepreneurial spirit. That has been a trend for us for 75 years. About 40% of our graduates start a business. And that can be within the environmental sciences or within our restaurant or pastry and baking arts. And so I think to understand that we attract leaders, we attract strong personalities, and people who kind of want to write their own path. So whatever major we offer, we can also back that up with quite a bit of entrepreneurial business classes. So if you want to be a business owner, operator, we're definitely a good choice. And I think in general, that is a personality trait we look for, that sort of leader, want to kind of forge your own path, not just fall into a specific career.
Mm-hmm. Wow, how fascinating. I would love to be a student in this university. It's incredible, the location and the kind of experiences students can have. And how competitive is the admission into your college? Do students need to have a very high GPA and test scores? Right. Are you test optional? If you can tell us a little more.
Yeah, sure. It really does depend on the program. So our most competitive programs are wildlife and fisheries science and biology. Those are going to require a higher academic profile. So we're going to want to see at least a 3.25 US GPA. And then, if you're looking at business, psychology, communication, we'll consider a 2.8 and above. Mm-hmm. Any of the other science programs, we want a 3.0 and above. So the science programs are definitely our most challenging, and we just want to make sure that students are going to be able to be successful in them.
Of course.
So, yeah, but fisheries and wildlife, biology, that 3.25 or above. We do not require tests at all. We did not require them before COVID either. And so we're not even going to look at them. If you send them, we're not going to consider them.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And our
Wow.
scholarships, yeah, we just, it doesn't, we learned a long time ago, it just does not relate back, especially for international students. It does not relate back to their skill level and capability.
Even TOEFL or IELTS, do you?
So TOEFL and IELTS, yes. If you're at an
Okay.
English-speaking school, you can be exempt from it. But for IELTS, we want a 6.5. And TOEFL, I believe we're 79. And Duolingo, 100.
Okay, thank you. And the scholarship, what is the profile of a student you think might be competitive in getting a scholarship?
So we do really generous scholarships. Every accepted student is guaranteed a minimum of $10,000. Then it goes up 12, 14, 16, 18, and 19,000 as the GPA goes up. So when you start to get in that over 3.5 GPA range, you're in that $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 a year range. And our overall price is about $47,000 a year. So if you're at 19,000, you're almost cutting that in half. We then give additional need-based financial aid between $4,000 and $6,000 based on a student's family's income. And so our average international student right now is paying about $25,000 a year. That's tuition, room, board, that's everything.
Interesting.
So it's competitive. I mean, for a private college, I think we're very competitive.
You are definitely. And I have another question about job opportunities, because that is something that Italians would love. The idea that after studying, they really have a tangible career prospect that you help them work for. But what about international students and their visa that expires after studying? I mean, can they stay only for the OPT, or do some of them manage to get an extension? I know that the OPT can be 3 years long, but
yeah. So that's a good question, and it's hard to know because it varies so much. Most of our degrees are STEM-based, so they are getting the extended STEM option. And then whether or not they are able to turn that into like a work visa, you know, that's really more up to them. Now, I will say, like, especially within, if you're not looking at the STEM programs, we are in a very high tourist area. So the Adirondack Park receives 10 million tourists a year. So while our campus looks very remote, we're actually surrounded by beautiful tourist towns. So our hospitality, tourism, and business students, I think, stand almost a better chance of getting a work visa after OPT because there's such a high demand here. So we already, this area has a huge amount of J visa workers. And so the tourist area in New York in general, even if you're in the city, also one of our graduates is the VP of Disney. So we have a semester at Disney, which I should mention. Talk about business very much, but we do have a really strong business program, and that's tied in with our hospitality. So we have a semester at Disney, which can often lead to work permits. But within the sciences, they typically get the STEM OPT, and then some of them will turn that into positions that they get hired for. A lot of that will come up to them. However, we have a career center that works with students even the whole time they're on OPT. And really most of the opportunities come through our faculty. So this is the beauty of a small school, right? A faculty member might only have 20 advisees that they're advising. They know you really, really well, and they know professional connections to connect you to. So that's the beauty of the small school, in my opinion.
So impressive. Yeah, it is beautiful. And yeah, we're learning so much about.
Good. Any other questions?
Laura, do you have other questions?
No, I don't have other questions, but I'm very motivated to apply. So please accept my application.
I can send you an application.
I will. Really interesting, very interesting. I mean, you can taste. I mean, it's something that the difference with other presentation, it was like being there. I don't know. I had this sensation. It was great.
Good.
Good feeling.
And you also gave us the key of specialty schools, because when we present the perfect fit, we presented, okay, we have all the tools, but now we have one specific school that is so different from others, and it's good to highlight it as an example, because honestly, our country has a centralized system of education, so universities are very similar. When we talk about flexibility and choice, they cannot even dream of something that is so different, because it's like each university that we learn through the webinars has its own identity, but it's like it's in your university. It's perfect for anyone that is very into climate issues or the environment, and the fact that it's located in a park, that is something that I learned today. It's really wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate it. It's a special place, and it's not for everyone, you know, but for students to know that there's a huge variety of options for them that can fit them, I think is hugely important. And we love to see it. We love when students get to our campus and experience it, and you can see it in their eyes and their reaction, like, what? This is where I'm going to be for 4 years. And then they thrive, and it really is a great experience.
Wow, it is. And do you think if we have an interested student, we can put him or her in touch with you?
Oh, please do. Absolutely. Yeah, you have my email. Reach out to me. I'm very responsive. I'm a one-woman show for international. And so, yeah, anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely meeting you and knowing more. Ciao.
Ciao, Fede.
Ciao.